Fires snapping in the stove. Brothers. Warmth on the face, cold in the bones. Old injuries wake up when the weather turns, like they've got their own memories. Out there, people think peace means the war is over. They're wrong. Sometimes the quiet is worse than gunfire, because you can't see what's stalking you. I found a safe zone in Charleston, just a night market, cobblestone streets, salt in the air. Then the breach came, a smiling predator with a phone, knocking on the door like he owned the place. So tell me, brother, when someone backs you into a corner, do you run? Or do you hold the line? A man in a red and black flannel steps in to stop a public humiliation. A service dog at heel, harness reading, service dog, do not pet. One edit later, the protector becomes the threat, and the trap waits at Pier 3. Was Deputy Ryan Miller and a reporter named Nina Parker closing in. Sit down with me. Let's walk through how the lie fell apart and what it costs to survive it. Salt wind on cobblestone streets. A thin autumn mist drifted through Charleston's old streets as evening fell, carrying the smell of salt from the harbor and softening the glow of lantern light on worn cobblestones. Ethan Walker moved along the edge of the night market, keeping to the quieter side where shadows pooled between brick walls. At 40, his frame was still tall and broad, the kind shaped by years of discipline rather than vanity. A red and black flannel shirt showed beneath his dark jacket, familiar as a second skin. His left leg lagged half a beat behind the right, a subtle hitch most people noticed only after watching him walk away. At his side paced Atlas, a 5-year-old German shepherd, black and tan coat gleaming under the lamps. The dog wore a black harness, the white lettering clear and uncompromising. Service dog, do not pet. Atlas did not scan the crowd nervously. He observed ears upright, eyes alert, but controlled. Ethan preferred places like this when the day ended. Noise scattered his thoughts, and crowds made old instincts itch. He liked movement without engagement, the way water moved around stone without trying to claim it. He stopped near a food stall, nodding politely as the vendor handed him a paper tray. Atlas sat without command, body still, watching hands rather than faces. Ethan appreciated that about the dog. Atlas never reacted to emotion, only to intent. A sharp voice cut through the hum of conversation. Watch where you're going. Ethan turned slightly. A young man, unsteady on his feet, loomed over a woman who had stepped back too quickly, her shoulder brushing a table. Sauce dripped down the edge, pooling on the ground. The woman froze, eyes wide, hands lifted in instinctive apology. She was in her early 30s, slim, with tired eyes that suggested long shifts and little rest. Her brown hair was pulled into a low knot that had begun to loosen. She wore a simple sweater and flat shoes, practical, unremarkable. Her posture was careful, as if she had learned to take up as little space as possible. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was steady, but Ethan caught the tension beneath it. The man laughed, loud and sharp. Sorry doesn't pay for it. People slowed, phones lifted. Ethan felt the familiar pressure behind his ribs, the quiet warning that preceded action. He did not like stepping into other people's chaos, but he liked bullies less. He took 2 measured steps forward. Atlas rose, aligning with his left leg, body angled but not aggressive. "That's enough," Ethan said. His voice was low, unadorned. The man turned, eyes narrowing. "Who asked you?" "No one," Ethan replied. "That's the point." Atlas did not growl. He simply stood, weight, grounded, presence, undeniable. The man's gaze flicked to the harness, then back to Ethan's face. Uncertainty crept in, thin as a crack in ice. Before the moment could settle, another figure pushed into the loose circle forming around them. Mark Harlan smiled as if he belonged everywhere. Mid-40s, neatly trimmed hair, crisp shirt under a light jacket. He carried himself like a host who had arrived late to his own party, His eyes moved quickly, calculating, already framing the scene. "Hey now," Mark said, lifting his phone. "Let's all calm down. No need to make this bigger than it is." He angled the camera toward Ethan, then the dog. "Service dog, huh? Interesting choice to bring into a crowd." Ethan felt irritation spark, brief and contained. He hated cameras. They flattened truth into angles and fragments. Atlas shifted half a step closer to Ethan's knee, responding to the change in tone. "Don't," Ethan said, meeting Mark's gaze. Mark's smile widened, almost imperceptibly. "Relax. People love a good story." The woman stepped forward then, shoulders squaring despite the tremor in her hands. "He didn't do anything wrong," she said, looking at Mark. He was helping. Mark turned the lens toward her, eyebrows lifting. "And you are someone who doesn't like being shouted at," she replied. Her voice steadied as she spoke, surprising herself. Ethan glanced at her, noting the resolve that had replaced fear. It reminded him of people he had known in other places, other times. Ordinary courage, the kind that appeared once, then vanished if ignored. "This is over," Ethan said. He guided Atlas back with a light touch on the harness. The dog followed immediately. Trust, absolute. Mark lowered the phone for a fraction of a second, irritation flashing across his face before the smile returned. "Sure, just remember, people see what they see." Ethan walked away without answering. Each step was deliberate, the hitch in his left leg more pronounced now that adrenaline faded. Behind him, the market resumed its rhythm, conversation swelling as if nothing had happened. The woman watched him go, heart still racing. She did not know his name, only the quiet authority in his voice, and the way the dog had mirrored it. Ethan did not look back. He never did. He told himself this would end like all the others. A moment, nothing more. He was wrong. When a video chooses the truth for you. Morning rain tapped against Charleston's windows, thin and persistent, washing the cobblestones clean, while the harbor stayed hidden behind a gray veil. Ethan Walker watched the rain from the small kitchen of his rented house near the docks. The space was spare. A table, 2 chairs, a faded calendar still turned to last month. He stood in his red and black flannel, sleeves rolled once at the wrists, coffee untouched in his hand. Atlas lay near the door, alert even at rest. Black harness already on, white letters visible, like a warning meant for the world rather than the dog. Ethan's phone buzzed again on the counter. He did not reach for it. He already knew what waited there. The night market clip had been uploaded before dawn, edited, cropped, stripped of context. The moment Ethan stepped forward was slowed and zoomed, his voice lowered in pitch by the crowd noise. Atlas framed carefully, cropped tight enough to look threatening. Mark Harlan's voice, calm and smiling, floated above it all. Ethan had learned long ago how quickly truth could be bent when fear was useful. At the docks, the men avoided his eyes. Some looked at Atlas instead, uneasy now, unsure what to believe. The supervisor, a broad man with graying hair and a kind face, pulled Ethan aside. "Just for a few days," the man said quietly. "Let things cool off." Ethan nodded. He did not argue. He never did when decisions were already made. Arguing wasted breath. Atlas sat beside him, unmoving. As if walking home, Ethan felt the familiar weight settle in his chest. Not anger, something colder, the sense of being judged by people who had never asked his name. Across town, Claire Bennett stared at the same video on her phone in the hospital break room. She wore pale blue scrubs, hair tied back tighter than usual. Her face drained of color as the comments scrolled. "Dangerous man. Unstable veteran. That dog should be banned." Her fingers trembled. She watched the clip again, slower this time, searching for what others claimed to see. All she saw was the man who had stepped in when no one else had, and the dog who had never moved unless guided. A coworker glanced over. "That was you, right?" "The market thing." Claire nodded. shame creeping up her spine. I didn't do anything wrong. The coworker shrugged. Internet doesn't care. Claire knew that too well. In the emergency room, Truth arrived bleeding and broken, and people still argued about who was to blame. Later that afternoon, a patrol car rolled to a stop near Ethan's house. Deputy Ryan Miller stepped out, 38. Average height, clean cut. Eyes that missed little. His posture was relaxed, but his attention was sharp. "Mind if I talk to you?" Ryan asked. Ethan nodded, stepping aside. Atlas remained seated, gaze fixed on the deputy's hands. "I've seen the full clip," Ryan said once inside. "Or at least, what's out there." "And?" Ethan asked. Ryan hesitated. "Feels cut." Ethan met his eyes. "It is." Ryan exhaled. "Problem is, feeling doesn't hold up. Evidence does." Ethan understood. He had lived by rules stricter than any courtroom. "I'm not chasing it." Ryan frowned. "You should." Ethan shook his head. "This ends when it ends." After Ryan left, the house felt smaller. Atlas rose and placed his head briefly against Ethan's thigh, grounding him. Ethan rested a hand on the harness, steadying himself more than the dog. That evening, a knock came at the door. Claire stood outside, rain-damp hair clinging to her temples. She had changed into a sweater and jeans, still plain, still careful. Her eyes were tired, but resolved. "I shouldn't be here," she said, "but I didn't know where else to go." Ethan stepped back to let her in. Atlas then settled, judgment already made. "I'm sorry," Claire said, words tumbling out. "I didn't stop him from filming. I froze. And now everyone thinks they think what they want," Ethan said. "That's not fair." "No," he agreed. "It's not." Claire studied him, the quiet certainty in his voice. "Why don't you defend yourself?" Ethan looked past her, out the window where rain blurred the world. "Because truth doesn't need noise. It needs time." Claire swallowed. She had spent years believing silence was safer. Now she saw what silence cost. "There might be another video," she said carefully. "Someone messaged me, said they had the original." Ethan turned back to her, attention sharpening. "When?" "Tonight, at the docks." For the first time since morning, Ethan felt something shift. Not hope. Readiness. He nodded once. "Then we go." Outside, the rain began to ease, though the clouds stayed low. Somewhere in the city, a man who had shaped the story smiled at his own reflection, certain he had already won. He had no idea how quickly that certainty would break. The trap at Pier 3. Night fell heavy over the harbor, clouds hanging low as cold wind pushed dark water against the wooden pilings of Pier 3. Ethan Walker moved with measured steps along the dock, red and black flannel visible beneath his jacket, the boards creaking softly under his weight. His left leg lagged just enough to remind him of old injuries, old nights. Atlas walked at heel, 5 years old, black and tan coat dark against the pier lights, black harness snug across his chest. Service dog, "Do not pet," stood out in white, clean and undeniable. Ethan did not like this place. Too open. Too many blind angles. The kind of location chosen by people who thought drama needed a stage. Claire Bennett followed a few steps behind. She wore a dark coat pulled tight, her hands tucked into the pockets to keep them from shaking. Her face was pale in the pier lights, but her eyes were steady. Fear was there, but so was resolve. She had spent years in emergency rooms learning the difference. "You don't have to stay close," Ethan said quietly. "I know," Claire replied, "but I will." He nodded once. He respected that. A figure stepped out from behind a stack of cargo crates. Young, mid-20s, lean build, nervous energy written into every movement. His jacket was too thin for the cold, hands shoved deep into his pockets as if protecting something precious. "You, Claire?" the man asked. "Yes," she said. "You said you had the original video." The man hesitated, eyes flicking to Ethan, then to Atlas. "I do, but things changed." Ethan felt the shift before it happened. The tension in the air tightened, like a wire pulled too far. From the shadows near the pier entrance, Mark Harlan's voice carried easily. They always do. Mark stepped into the light, phone already raised. Same neat hair, same controlled smile. His jacket was cleaner than it should have been for a dock at night. See, Mark continued, circling slowly. This is what people don't understand. Stories don't belong to anyone. They belong to whoever tells them best. Claire's stomach dropped. You set this up, Mark shrugged. You walked right into it. The young man near the crates shifted, panic flaring across his face. You didn't say it would be like this. Mark's smile hardened. Relax. Just follow instructions. Ethan placed himself slightly in front of Claire. Atlas adjusted instantly. Body aligned. Eyes fixed on the young man's hands. This ends now, Ethan said. Mark laughed. That's what you said last time. The young man suddenly lunged, trying to shove past Atlas toward Claire, his elbow swinging wide. Atlas reacted faster than thought. He stepped in, chest to thigh, using weight and leverage rather than teeth. The young man lost balance on the slick boards, flailing as his grip on a waterproof pouch slipped. The pouch hit the edge of the pier, bounced once, and burst open as it struck the water. A phone surfaced, screen glowing briefly before going dark, drifting toward the pilings. No, the young man shouted. Mark's smile vanished. He rushed forward, reaching for the water, but it was too late. A patrol car's lights flashed at the pier entrance. Deputy Ryan Miller stepped out, rain spotting his uniform, face set. He had followed the location ping Claire sent earlier, instinct telling him something was wrong. Everyone step back, Ryan ordered. The young man collapsed to his knees, hands shaking. He told me to do it. He told me to bait them. Ryan's eyes moved to Mark. Did he now? Mark straightened, composure snapping back into place. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. Ryan gestured to the water. Funny thing about misunderstandings. They don't usually involve evidence floating away. Another voice cut in. That's enough. Mark. Nina Parker stepped out from behind a parked truck, camera in hand. 28. Sharp-eyed. Hair pulled back. Expression tight with something like regret. She had followed Mark after noticing patterns that did not sit right. I've been recording, Nina said. All of it. Mark stared at her. You can't use that. I can, Nina replied, and I will. Ethan watched it unfold with a distant calm. He felt no triumph, only a quiet certainty. He had seen men unravel when control slipped through their fingers. It always happened fast. Mark backed away, words tumbling out now. Desperate. Unpolished. Ryan moved in, handcuffs ready. Atlas returned to Ethan's side, breathing steady. Mission complete. Claire exhaled, legs trembling as the weight of the night hit her. Ethan noticed and steadied her with a gentle hand at her elbow. She did not pull away. For the first time since the market, Ethan felt the pressure in his chest ease, not because he was vindicated, but because the truth had finally found its footing. Behind them, the harbor water closed over the last ripples, indifferent to lies, carrying away what did not belong. After the noise fades, morning light broke gently over Charleston, pale and cool. The harbor calm again, as if the night before had been a bad dream the water refused to remember. Ethan Walker sat on the front steps of his rented house, elbows on his knees, red and black flannel buttoned against the chill. Atlas lay beside him, head on pause, black harness still on, the white service dog, do not pet lettering catching the early sun. The world had gone quiet in a way that felt unfamiliar. Too clean, too sudden. The truth had surfaced fast, faster than Ethan trusted. His phone buzzed with messages he did not open. Apologies from people who had typed insults hours earlier. Invitations from reporters who had ignored him when the story was convenient. The noise had flipped directions, but it was still noise. Ethan did not need it. Inside the house, the kettle clicked off. Claire Bennett stepped out carrying 2 mugs. She looked different in the morning light, less guarded, still tired, but softer at the edges. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, hair loosely tied back, eyes honest in a way that had nothing to prove. She handed Ethan a mug and sat one step below him, careful not to crowd his space. "I barely slept," she said. "Me neither," Ethan replied. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that did not ask to be filled. Ethan stared at the street, watching an older couple walk their dog, unaware of how close chaos had come the night before. "I should have spoken sooner," Claire said quietly. "At the market. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to be dragged into it." Ethan listened without looking at her. He had learned long ago that confessions needed room. In the hospital, Claire continued, "We see what happens when people stay quiet. Damage spreads. It becomes harder to fix." She paused. "I became very good at telling myself it wasn't my place." Ethan nodded. "Silence keeps you safe," he said. "Until it doesn't." She glanced at him then. "Why didn't you fight back? Online. I mean," Ethan took a slow breath. "Because I've seen what happens when people chase every accusation. You lose yourself before you ever reach the truth." Claire studied him, the calm weight of his words. And now the truth showed up on its own. A car slowed at the curb. Deputy Ryan Miller stepped out, uniform crisp, posture relaxed but professional. He looked more tired than usual, dark circles under his eyes. "Just wanted to check in," Ryan said. "Mark Harlan's being charged. Obstruction, manipulation. More coming once they dig." Ethan nodded. "Thank you." Ryan hesitated, glancing at Claire. "The video Nina released is clean. No cuts. People are seeing it." "Good," Claire said. Ryan gave a small, respectful nod. "You did the right thing, both of you." After he left, the quiet settled again. Later that afternoon, Nina Parker arrived. She stood at the edge of the yard, camera nowhere in sight. Without it, she looked younger, less certain, more human. "I wanted to apologize," Nina said. "I shared the first clip. I told myself it wasn't my fault, that it was already out there." Ethan regarded her steadily. And now I know better," Nina said. "I'm running a piece tonight. No angles, no spin." Ethan said nothing. Atlas watched her calmly, tail still. "That's all," Nina added, and left. As the sun dipped lower, Claire and Ethan walked along the harbor. Atlas moved between them, pace even, leash slack. People passed and nodded, some with embarrassment, some with relief. No one approached. "I don't want this to turn into something loud," Claire said. "I don't need a headline to feel right." Ethan glanced at her. "Neither do I." They stopped near the water. Claire rested her hands on the railing, staring at the slow tide. "I spent years thinking courage was something dramatic," she said. "Now I think it's quieter." Ethan shifted his weight, the familiar ache in his left leg grounding him. "Quiet lasts longer." She turned to him then, eyes steady. "I don't want to be quiet anymore when it matters." Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. Not hope. Trust. Rare. Careful. He reached out, resting his hand briefly over hers. Not a promise. An understanding. Behind them, Atlas satellite, watchful and content. Mission complete, but loyalty unbroken. The city continued around them, indifferent and alive. The damage had been done. The truth had followed. What came next would not be decided by cameras or crowds, only by choices made when no one was watching. What remains when the water settles? Sunrise came clear and mild, a soft gold washing over Charleston as the harbor breathed in slow, patient rhythms, the air carrying salt and the promise of an ordinary day. Ethan Walker stood at the edge of the pier where the boards met the water, red and black flannel buttoned, hands resting lightly at his sides. His left leg ached in the familiar way. Not pain exactly, more a reminder. Atlas sat at heel, 5-year-old German shepherd, steady and composed, black harness snug, the white service dog, "Do not pet" lettering bright against the morning. The city had moved on. It always did, Ethan had returned to work 2 days earlier. The supervisor met him with an awkward smile and a quiet apology. No speeches, no explanations, just a nod and a place on the schedule. Ethan accepted it the same way he accepted most things, without ceremony. At the docks, a new sign hung near the gate. Clear lettering, simple rules. Respect service animals. No filming without consent. It was not justice. It was better. It was practical. Claire Bennett approached from the walkway. Steps unhurried. She wore a light jacket over her scrubs, hair pulled back neatly, eyes brighter than they had been weeks ago. The hospital had stood by her after the truth came out. A small mercy she did not take lightly. "You always come here early," she said. Ethan glanced at her, then back at the water. "It's quieter before people arrive." Claire smiled faintly. She understood that now. "I start a new rotation today. Trauma intake. Big change." She nodded. "I asked for it." Ethan studied her face, the steadiness beneath the nerves. Courage had taken root there, slow and sure. A familiar car pulled up nearby. Deputy Ryan Miller stepped out of uniform this time, wearing a plain jacket. Expression relaxed. "Just checking in," Ryan said. "Paperwork's nearly done. Mark won't be seeing daylight for a while." Ethan nodded once. "That's enough." Ryan hesitated. "People still want statements. Interviews." Ethan shook his head. "I've said what I needed to say." Ryan smiled, understanding. "Figured." He left them to the morning. Later, Nina Parker passed by. Camera slung over her shoulder but untouched. She stopped at a respectful distance. Her posture had changed. Less urgency, more care. "The piece ran last night," Nina said. "No commentary, just facts." Ethan met her gaze. "Good." She nodded and moved on. The harbor filled with sound as the day progressed. Gulls, engines, voices, life resuming its normal shape. Claire leaned against the railing, watching Atlas watch the world. "He's calm," she said. "Even after everything." "He's trained," Ethan replied, "and he trusts." Claire looked at Ethan then. "Do you?" He considered the question. The easy answer would have been no. The honest one took more time. "I'm learning," he said. They walked along the water's edge, Atlas moving between them. Leash loose, pace unhurried. No one stared. No one whispered. The absence of attention felt like a gift. Claire stopped near the end of the pier. "I used to think healing meant erasing what happened," she said. "Now I think it means carrying it differently." Ethan rested his hands on the railing, feeling the grain of the wood beneath his palms. "Scars teach you where to place your weight." She turned toward him, eyes searching. "What happens now?" Ethan looked out over the harbor. He thought of nights spent listening for threats that never came, of days measured by duty rather than desire, of silence that had protected him and also kept him alone. "We keep going," he said. "We choose better when it matters." Claire nodded. "Together." Ethan met her gaze. He did not answer with words. He reached out and took her hand, firm and steady, a simple promise made without spectacle. Atlas rose and stepped close, settling at Ethan's side, content, vigilant. As the sun climbed higher, Charleston unfolded around them, not redeemed, not transformed, just honest. Somewhere beyond the water, a man faced consequences he had believed would never reach him. The regret had been instant, the lesson permanent. Ethan did not dwell on it. He focused on the quiet strength beside him, on the steady presence at his heel, on the knowledge that when the world tried to twist the truth again, he would know where to stand, and that was enough. Sometimes the miracle is not thunder or light from the sky. Sometimes it is God choosing the right moment for the truth to surface, when lies can no longer stand. Faith is not always loud. Often it lives in quiet choices, speaking up when it is easier to stay silent, doing what is right when no one is watching. In daily life, we may never face cameras or crowds, but we all face moments where honesty costs something, and kindness asks for courage. Trust that God sees those moments. Trust that no good act is wasted, even when it feels unseen. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment with your thoughts and subscribe to support more stories like this. May God bless you and your family.